Hey everybody, welcome to another Joe Gomez guitar lesson. Again, this is a continuation of the practicing series. We're still on scales. Um, so what I want to talk about in this lesson is more of getting past being in positions or maybe staying inside one scale. This should help you hopefully be able to move a little bit better in between scales. That's something that usually I know for me, when I was first getting into jazz, I was so overwhelmed worrying about, all right, I've got to play this scale, and then 4 beats later, 3 beats later, I got to play, this next scale, and I'm trying to get all of that under my fingers. And so what I started doing was kind of sticking to one position and trying to play the entire piece, moving through the scales all within one area of the neck and then slowly moving around. Um, so, for example, I'm going to use the song All of Me, and I'm just going to use the first 4 measures. The first 2 measures are just C major, and then measures 3 and 4 are E7. And so what I would do, so C major, you're probably going to use the C major scale. So let's just stick to this position. I like this one probably the most. You probably noticed that from other videos. So we've got C major. So when we go to E7, one thing we may have learned over top of a 7th chord, you would use the Mixolydian scale. And to find that out, E would be the 5 of what scale. If you count back, that would end up being A major scale. But since we're going to stay in a position, the closest position would actually start here with this B, and then you would play the E Mixolydian or A major scale starting from that position. And then you would what you do is practice that kind of in real time. So I've got this kind of uploaded on iRealB. I've got it set at a fairly slow tempo. So I'll show you what I'm talking about as far as practice. So I'm going to play straight 8th notes. Here comes the E7, so I'm going to switch scales. Back to C. I'm just doing the first 4 measures. So what I'm doing there is getting used to switching between those 2 scales, and I'm starting to see a kind of a scale picture in my mind. And everybody's a little bit different. For me, I kind of see little dots where on the fretboard of where I need to be playing. But yeah. So another thing that this helps you do is get out of that thing where you always start on the root note. So you may have practiced C major this way, but you also may have started playing, your Mixolydian scale like this, starting from E every single time. And that kind of starts to make kind of for, stale improv or soloing. It doesn't sound that cool if you're always starting on the root note. So what you can do from there is maybe start on just another scale degree that'll force you to end up in a different spot when that time comes to make that chord change. So you could start on G, for instance, and work your way up the scale. And then when the scale change happens, then you have to learn how to switch. So that's good at connecting those 2 different things. Another thing that you can do is work on scale patterns and moving them through the chord change. So you could maybe play, the first thing that comes to mind is maybe playing in thirds. And then right here would be the change, right? So then you can work on playing more, closer to an actual melody to a song or to your improv, while still learning how to seamlessly move between those two positions. The other thing that I like to do as far as exercises go like this is do more of an ear training thing. So the C major works, it sounds good, I'm okay with that one. Although for the E7, sometimes I hear it a little bit differently. Right then when I was playing it through, the Mixolydian scale seemed to work. But I would encourage you to try to play things maybe outside the regular thinking. Just for an example, what I particularly like to play is the A harmonic minor scale over top of that E7. And the logic behind that is because there's only one note changing in between that C major to E7, and that'd be the G sharp. So I can kind of give you an example of what that sounds like. So I'm starting I real B up again. So I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to move to A harmonic minor or E Phrygian dominant. Right? So to me that sounds a little bit, I don't know, coherent, maybe because there's less notes changing. But I would encourage you to try those different substitutions. If you were to chord that out, it would be, you'd kind of have a flat 13 in that chord, but you'd also have a flat 9 in there as well. So even though that it may not be written in the lead sheet, you could still draw from those sounds. But again, I would encourage you to search for other ones. You might want to do, the Lydian dominant scale there, which would be the Mixolydian scale, but with a sharp 4 or sharp 11. You may like that. You may like the diminished scale over top of that. So again, I would encourage you to go through and maybe try those different things, or just, wait until you hear notes that say, yeah, I like how that one sounds, because it's not always going to be the same thing that's written down in the books that they're telling you, because it's easy to say it's a 7th chord, you're always going to play Mixolydian. It's easy to say that, but it may not always be true. Same thing with minor chords. A lot of people always just go to Dorian, but sometimes Dorian is not the correct scale choice. That the notes may sound a little bit weird. So that's I find that this helps me a lot. Again, you don't want to just do it in one position. Try it in all positions. You could even just practice your scales that way, just running the major scale in one position. So you start C, and then switch immediately to the F major scale. And then you go B flat, or however you want to do it, but try playing all your scales in one position and keep moving through. And I think that'll help your playing a lot. In the next lesson we'll get into a little bit more how to play through chord changes using melody, or using guide tones and stuff. But I still think it's good for students or everybody to be able to move more seamlessly between the scales, to where it's more comfortable, where it's not kind of a chore. For me, what I always kind of explained it as was, if you remember those projectors in school where the teacher would write something down. To me, when I was first playing, it was like I could get the whole scale all over the neck, and it was like having a projector, where I could see everything. It was all written down, but as soon as the next chord change came, it was like I had to take time to take that next kind of template of notes for the projector to show, and that takes too much time. You know, when you're improvising on a song in real time, you don't have time to really to think about all the different positions, everything. They should just kind of be more ingrained in you, and I think this is a step that a lot of people miss. Um, so hope everybody gets something out of this, and I'll see you guys next week for the continuation of scales in the practice series.